Welcome back to Avoidant Decoded, where we go beyond the silence, distance, and mixed signals to uncover what is really happening beneath avoidant behavior. And today, we're exploring the one kind of empath who can reach an avoidant in a way most people never do. What if the person who affects an avoidant the most isn't the one who loves them harder, chases them longer, or waits patiently for them to change? What if it's the person who can see through their walls, understand their wounds, and still remain completely grounded in themselves? There is a kind of empath whose presence doesn't trigger pursuit or pressure. It quietly disrupts the entire emotional pattern an avoidant has spent years protecting. And if you've ever loved someone who kept pulling away, there's a chance you already know exactly what kind of person I'm talking about. Over the years, I've noticed a pattern that is easy to misunderstand when it comes to avoidant people. They can walk away from relationships that, from the outside, look incredibly rare and meaningful. They may leave someone who is kind, patient, emotionally present, and genuinely committed. They may distance themselves from a person who respects their boundaries, gives them room without constantly chasing them, and offers the kind of calm, consistent love that many people spend years searching for. Yet every once in a while, something unexpected happens. That same avoidant person who seems unreachable, emotionally guarded, and completely comfortable hiding behind their walls encounters a very particular kind of person, and something inside them begins to shift. It does not always create a perfect relationship, and it does not guarantee that the two people will remain together forever, but the impact can be profound. After watching this pattern unfold again and again, I've come to believe there is a certain kind of person who can reach an avoidant on a level that most people never do. And if what I'm describing sounds familiar, there is a possibility that person might be you. The empath who affects an avoidant most deeply is not necessarily the person who loves them the hardest. It is not the person who endlessly gives, constantly adjusts, ignores their own needs, or keeps changing themselves simply to make the relationship work. Those qualities can come from a beautiful heart, but they do not always create safety for someone with strong avoidant defenses. Sometimes they produce the opposite reaction. The reason is simple. One of the deepest fears behind avoidant behavior is the feeling of emotional obligation. When an avoidant senses that someone's happiness, stability, or emotional well-being depends heavily on them, they can begin to feel trapped by expectations they do not believe they can satisfy. Even genuine love can become overwhelming when it carries desperation, dependency, or the unspoken message that they must constantly provide reassurance. Their nervous system may interpret that emotional intensity as pressure, and their instinct is often to step back. The empath who reaches them in a different way has something much more powerful than endless devotion. They have what I would call quiet emotional sovereignty. They feel deeply. They notice small changes in someone's tone, energy, behavior, and emotions. They can often understand what another person is experiencing without being told everything directly. Their sensitivity is almost like an internal radar, but the important difference is that they are not controlled by what they feel. They have learned how to experience strong emotions without allowing those emotions to dictate every decision. They have spent time confronting themselves, sitting with difficult feelings, moving through loneliness, facing painful experiences, and learning how to stand on their own emotionally. Over time, their sensitivity stopped being something that made them vulnerable to everyone else's behavior and became one of their greatest strengths. This person can genuinely love an avoidant without needing that avoidant to complete them. They care deeply. They are affectionate, warm, compassionate, and sincere, but their identity does not collapse when the other person becomes distant. Their happiness is not dependent on receiving constant attention. Their self-worth does not rise and fall according to whether the avoidant is emotionally available that day, and that distinction can completely change the dynamic. An avoidant often expects closeness to eventually come with demands. They may believe affection will turn into expectations, that emotional connection will eventually require more than they can give, or that being loved means being responsible for another person's emotional needs. But this kind of empath does not fit that familiar pattern. They can be emotionally open while remaining emotionally independent. They can love someone deeply without losing themselves inside that love. And when an avoidant encounters that combination, their usual defenses may suddenly have nothing familiar to fight against. To understand why this matters, you have to understand the cycle that often develops between an avoidant and someone who becomes emotionally anxious in response to their distance. The avoidant pulls back. The other person notices the change and feels unsettled. They send more messages, ask more questions, seek reassurance, try harder to reconnect, or attempt to restore the closeness that existed before. The avoidant experiences that increased pursuit as more pressure and retreats further. The other person then becomes even more concerned and reaches out even more. One moves forward while the other moves backward, creating a painful cycle where both people feel misunderstood. But the emotionally sovereign empath responds differently. When the avoidant takes a step back, they do not immediately run after them. That does not mean they suddenly stop caring. It does not mean they are playing a game trying to punish the other person or attempting to make them jealous. They simply understand that another person's withdrawal does not have to destroy their inner peace. They allow space without abandoning themselves. They remain compassionate without becoming desperate. Their behavior communicates something very powerful without needing to say it directly. I care about you, but I will not lose myself because you need distance. For an avoidant, that can be deeply unfamiliar. The usual reaction they expect from distance is pursuit. Instead, they encounter stability. They expect emotional pressure and instead experience calm. They expect someone to become increasingly dependent on their attention, but they see someone who remains grounded in their own life. Suddenly, the old pattern does not work the way it normally does, and when the familiar cycle disappears, the avoidant may be left with something they have spent years trying to avoid, their own inner world. That does not mean the empath has magically changed them. It means the absence of emotional chasing can create enough room for self-reflection to happen. Instead of constantly responding to someone else's emotional reaction, the avoidant may begin noticing their own feelings. They may wonder why they miss this person. They may question why the distance feels different this time. They may realize that the other person's calmness does not mean they do not care. They may begin to understand that this person is not trying to control them, and sometimes that realization can become the beginning of genuine emotional awareness. What makes this kind of empath especially powerful is the way they see the avoidant. They do not build an imaginary version of the person in their head. They do not fall in love exclusively with potential. They are not constantly thinking about who the avoidant could become if only they healed, opened up, communicated better, or finally realized how much they were loved. They see the actual person. They notice the warmth and kindness. They appreciate the moments when the connection feels genuine, but they also recognize the withdrawal, inconsistency, hesitation, mixed signals, and emotional silence. They can acknowledge someone's wounds without using those wounds to excuse behavior that hurts them. They can understand why someone struggles without pretending that those struggles do not have consequences. They hold compassion and clarity at the same time. That balance is rare. Many people respond to avoidance in extremes. In the beginning, they may admire their independence, mystery, emotional control, or self-sufficiency. The avoidant can appear fascinating because they seem difficult to reach, but once their emotional distance begins causing pain, admiration can quickly turn into frustration. The same qualities that once seemed attractive become the very things the other person resents. Over time, the avoidant becomes familiar with this pattern. They may begin expecting every relationship to eventually follow the same path. Someone idealizes them, becomes attached, feels disappointed, and finally becomes angry or resentful. But the emotionally mature empath does not enter the relationship wearing rose-colored glasses. They do not idealize the avoidant, and they do not wait around until their disappointment turns into bitterness. They see the person clearly from the beginning. They can appreciate what is beautiful while remaining aware of what is difficult. They do not confuse understanding with tolerating everything. They do not confuse compassion with self-abandonment. For someone who has spent years feeling misunderstood, being seen clearly without being attacked can be incredibly powerful. Imagine being around someone who recognizes both your strengths and your limitations, yet does not immediately judge you for either one. Imagine being understood without feeling analyzed, controlled, or pressured. Imagine someone choosing to remain present because they genuinely want to, rather than because they are afraid of losing you. That experience can reach a very different part of an avoidant's emotional world. Their defenses were originally created for a reason. They may have developed around experiences of rejection, disappointment, criticism, emotional chaos, abandonment, or relationships where closeness felt unsafe. Their walls help them maintain control and protect themselves from being hurt. But when they encounter someone who understands them without trying to control them, respects their boundaries without disappearing into their own needs, and remains emotionally stable without demanding immediate vulnerability, those defenses can begin to lose their purpose. The avoidant may no longer be able to tell themselves that intimacy automatically creates pressure. They may begin to question the belief that being fully known will inevitably lead to criticism or rejection. They may discover that someone can see their imperfections and still treat them with dignity. And perhaps for the first time, closeness begins to feel less like a threat and more like a choice. There is another quality that makes this kind of empath especially different, and it may be one of the most important pieces of all. They do not make it their personal mission to fix the avoidant. That sounds simple, but it is incredibly difficult to practice. Many people who love an avoidant genuinely believe they are simply being patient. They tell themselves they are giving the person time, respecting their pace, and allowing things to develop naturally. But underneath that patience, there can sometimes be an expectation that all this understanding will eventually produce a reward. They imagine that one day the avoidant will become fully open, emotionally available, affectionate, and ready to love them in the way they have always wanted. The expectation may never be spoken, but it can still be felt. Avoidant people can be surprisingly sensitive to that hidden pressure. They may recognize when someone is quietly waiting for them to change. Even when the waiting is wrapped in kindness, patience, and compassion, it can still feel like an expectation. And if acceptance is dependent on becoming a different person in the future, it may not feel like genuine acceptance at all. The emotionally grounded empath approaches this completely differently. They do not love the avoidant as a personal rehabilitation project. They are not secretly investing in the relationship while waiting for a future version of the person to finally appear. They are not counting every tiny improvement as evidence that the transformation they hoped for is finally happening. They are not treating every vulnerable conversation as proof that the walls are about to disappear forever. Their acceptance exists in the present. They can love someone while still recognizing who that person actually is today. That does not mean they have no standards. It does not mean they tolerate disrespect. It does not mean they abandon their own needs or stay indefinitely in an unhealthy situation. It simply means they understand that loving another person and trying to redesign that person are two completely different things. Their kindness is not a transaction. Their patience is not an investment waiting for a return. Their compassion does not come with an invisible contract saying, "I have loved you this well, so now you owe me the version of yourself I want." That kind of freedom can be incredibly unfamiliar to an avoidant. They may not understand why this person feels different. They may struggle to explain why they keep thinking about them. They may not have the emotional vocabulary to describe what is happening internally, but beneath conscious reasoning, something can begin to soften. It reaches beyond the defensive habits they have relied on for years. It touches the part of them that existed before distance became their favorite form of protection. And that is why this type of empath can leave such a powerful impression. Not because they chase more intensely, not because they sacrifice everything, not because they tolerate endless inconsistency, and certainly not because they love someone enough to lose themselves. They leave an impression because they embody a kind of love that is difficult to defend against. Love that is present without becoming possessive. Compassion that does not turn into self-sacrifice. An emotional closeness that does not require another person to become someone else. If you recognize yourself in this, I want you to understand something important. Your ability to feel deeply was never the problem. Your sensitivity was never something you needed to be ashamed of. Your capacity to care was not a weakness. You did not become too much simply because someone else did not know how to receive what you were offering. Sometimes the problem is not the depth of the love being offered. Sometimes it is the emotional capacity of the person receiving it. Your warmth does not become excessive simply because someone else is uncomfortable with intimacy. Your openness does not become wrong because another person responds to vulnerability with distance, and your compassion does not need to be reduced just because someone else has not learned how to handle emotional closeness. But there is an important distinction to remember. Your job is not to rescue someone from their emotional limitations. No amount of patience, understanding, affection, or empathy can complete inner work that another person refuses to do for themselves. You can create a safe environment, but you cannot force someone to become emotionally available. You can love someone sincerely, but you cannot heal their wounds on their behalf. So do not interpret another person's limitations as evidence that something is wrong with your heart. The right people will not require you to become smaller so they can feel comfortable. They will not make you feel guilty for wanting honesty, consistency, affection, or emotional connection. They will meet your openness with openness and your sincerity with sincerity. They will not simply admire the depth of your heart from a distance. They will have the courage to meet you there. Until then, protect your peace. Know your value. Stay connected to yourself. Love deeply, but never confuse loving someone with abandoning yourself for them. The strongest form of empathy is not disappearing inside another person's pain or spending your life trying to repair their wounds. It is being able to understand someone deeply while remaining firmly rooted in who you are. Because sometimes the person who affects an avoidant the most is not the one who proves they will never leave. It is the one who loves sincerely, respects their boundaries, honors their own boundaries, and remains whole whether the avoidant steps closer or steps away. That kind of person does not force the door open. They simply show that closeness does not have to mean losing freedom, and love does not have to mean losing yourself. The empath who leaves the deepest mark on an avoidant is not the one who chases, fixes, or sacrifices everything for love, but the one who can love deeply without losing themselves. Your sensitivity is not your weakness, and their inability to receive your love is not proof that you are too much. Sometimes the greatest impact comes from showing someone that love can exist without pressure, control, or self-abandonment. So protect your peace, honor your worth, and remember, you can love someone deeply without making their healing your responsibility.